Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 8 of the Together We Grow podcast. My name's Paul Main.
And I'm Tamer Main.
And we welcome you along. We have started this podcast to help home fragrance business owners start, grow, and eventually scale and sell, if they wish to, their home fragrance business. This is taken from our years of experience in building 3 home fragrance brands here in the UK, which we eventually sold. And now we started the Home Fragrance Academy to teach our members how to do the exact same things from all of our strategies, all of the good and the bad and everything that we'd learned along the way. But there's more as well. What else do we do in this podcast, Emma?
We also teach you and give you lots of golden nuggets about how to survive in business together as a partnership as well. Because, of course, we're a married couple and there are many of you out there like us. So we give you lots of advice and personal experience on how to navigate business and love together.
Absolutely right. So in this episode, we are going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes that we made in our business, how we overcome them, and the lessons we learned from them.
And we're going to make sure that we give you all the information so that you don't make the same mistakes.
Absolutely right. So shall we crack on with it?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, well, sometimes talking about the mistakes is something that can be quite a difficult thing to go through, can't it? Sort of rehashing things that didn't go well and stuff like that. It brings up lots of emotions sometimes, can't it?
It does, but actually, me, in my business career, I've learned to, you take the good stuff, but you sort of, yes, if something really good happens, and lots of things good happen for us, you're like, yes, fantastic, that's wonderful, but where are the bad parts? Where are the mistakes? Where are the issues? And then focus on fixing those, because that's how you end up building a decent business. So for me, I don't mind talking about the bad stuff, and I don't mind talking about errors and issues, because that's an opportunity to fix things and to improve.
And that's what's important in business, isn't it? Is to make sure that you're adapting, changing, growing and becoming better at what you do, isn't it?
You can't be disheartened when things go wrong and when you get negative feedback or it feels like you're just not moving anywhere.
That's why we balance each other out a little bit, isn't it? Sometimes, whereas you can see all the negative sides, but you turn it into, okay, I know this is bad, but if I did it like this, you look at it in that way. Whereas sometimes I could find it difficult to be like, yeah, but they said this, sort of get pulled down a little bit by the negativity.
Yeah, that only comes over time, though, doesn't it? Because when we
does.
first started, I was the same. And in my previous business as well, it's very much the same. And back then, doing the marketing and stuff, you're dealing with big contracts with people. So if they're unhappy or there's an issue, then you've got a chance of losing something quite significant. So, we've got 5 different mistakes that we made, which we're going to talk about, aren't we?
We certainly
But before
are.
we do that, Tamer's little segment of the week. You've got a quote of the week, and you've also got a win of the week for our members, haven't you?
I certainly have. So our quote of the week this week is, I'm not sure what source this comes from because I couldn't find the source, but courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. So I really like that, because when you're in the middle of doing something to do with the business or anything in life really, if you're scared or worried, it's like you've got to do it anyway, because you might be wondering one day, oh, what if I did that?
Yeah.
It's better to have done it and failed than be sitting there at the end of your life thinking, oh, what if I did that?
It's true, yeah, but you also have to be calculated as well.
Oh yes, you have to be calculated.
So when you are thinking of, when you have opportunities, yes, you need courage, but you also need to be calculated. You can't just jump into it. Take, for instance, us with our shops.
Yeah.
We were very close to signing leases on 2 shops.
Literally had the paperwork on your desk.
We had the courage to do it. In fact, we'd had one completely designed by an interior designer for us, but we were very calculated, and that was a time when wars started happening in Russia and Ukraine. Prices went through the roof, and we pulled out, and that was the best thing we did, I think.
It certainly was.
Good. And who's your winner of the week?
And my winner of the week this week goes to Nikki from Marshall Melts for launching her website. She's been doing a lot of work on it behind the scenes, and it is finally ready to go. So if you like Gothic gifts and everything, head over to Marshall Melts.
Yeah, Nikki from Marshall Melts is someone who has absolutely nailed her brief, hasn't it?
Yep, she certainly has. She's got her niche and she's really stuck to it.
Yeah, her niche is the Gothic market.
Mm-hmm.
So she has gifts and wax melts and things like that, which is all tailored to that particular niche.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's going to help her target that particular audience, and that business will do well, I'm sure of it.
Definitely.
So well done, Nikki. Congratulations. Launching a business is hard work. And so, and it takes a lot of courage, as we just spoke about.
It certainly does.
So well done for doing that. Good. Right. Shall we start talking about our mistakes then?
Let's do it.
So the first one we made, and this was back in 2020 when COVID hit, and the mistake we made was actually taking our foot off the pedal with regards to marketing.
Yeah, I remember that exactly. We had our no-brainer buy one get one free offer, didn't we? And at the time with the team, we were struggling to keep up with making the stock and getting them out and dispatching them, because we could only do so many in a day, was what our mindset was. And so we're like, we'll just turn the adverts off and then let us catch up, and then we'll turn them back on, because previously that's how Facebook's advertising was working. Turn it on and turn it off as and when needed, almost like a tap, wasn't it? But obviously we took our foot off the gas, and in that time we turned the adverts off. Facebook advertising had changed and it wasn't working quite the same. It wasn't turning on and off as easily, and it impacted our sales massively, didn't it?
It did, yeah. This was a time, that was one of our big growth years, like it was for a lot of people in who sold things online, basically. We had our no-brainer offer, which we talk about a lot. So it was a box of wax melts, buy one, get one free. We were selling thousands and thousands, like literally tens of thousands of those. They were a fantastic offer for brand new customers. People had never heard of us before. They'd buy this because it's an offer they just can't refuse. We were selling loads of them, hundreds a day. Hundreds of packs of these a day.
Our target was to make 250 of both design boxes.
Yeah, we had two different options for them.
Yeah.
Two different sort of scent options. And our target, bear in mind there's only like 4 of us in the business, was to make 500 boxes in total a day. And they were quite labour intensive. We had to make that many because we were selling that many.
Yeah.
And we had our ads running. They were doing really well. Every time we increased budget, we'd just simply get more orders. It was a time where looking back on it, we kind of took it for granted, and I think a lot of people did. And then we got to a point where we were like, okay, we just can't keep up with this. So I turned the ads off and thought, right, in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks time, I'll turn them back on, because we were like 7 days behind on orders and stuff. And then when we came to turn them back on, it took so much time and effort to get them back to that really good level. Because basically we took our foot off the gas, we'd lost momentum. And even our organic marketing, our social media posts, emails, we just stopped all of that just to focus on the operational side of the business, getting these orders out. And that was a huge mistake. So the lesson learned from there is, and I talk about this, don't I, within Home Fragrance Academy, is never ever stop marketing.
Yep.
No matter how busy you are, this is the lesson we learned, no matter how busy you are, keep your foot firmly planted on that gas pedal with regards to marketing, and think about how and work out how you can deal with that level of orders. I mean, this is obviously a very good problem to have, of course.
Yeah.
But you need to think operationally what you need to do to manage those orders.
What can you change in-house to make it quicker, more efficient, and what can you do to speed up the processes you're doing in your building to make it better, more effective?
Exactly. So it could be you need more people.
Yeah, which we needed, I think, at the time.
Yeah, we ended up doing that. It could be more machinery, so larger equipment to melt your wax in, which we did. We got one of those large 90.
I melt 90s.
I melt 90s.
I remember the day at arrival. I was so excited.
Fantastic. We went from the little 6-litre soup kettles to a 90-litre, which was brilliant. Buy equipment to help you pour things faster. Machines to help you pack or label, whatever it is. Instead of just resorting to turn the ads off, take my foot off the marketing because I'm busy, change your operations internally. That's just, and I think ever since then that's what we did, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've always tried to do that since then.
That's it. No matter how busy we were, Black Friday, some Black Fridays when we're in this is well after COVID and all that, like 22, 23. We would have many more orders than we wanted, many more orders than we expected, but we kept putting our foot down and we kept out marketing, and like place your order, place your order.
We
place your
learnt
order.
from that,
Because
didn't we?
Exactly, because you can deal with that, and you can. That was the lesson we learned,
It
and
is.
sometimes you have to go through these lessons, don't you?
You certainly do. But during that time, like you said with the Black Friday afterwards, what we made sure we did was, knowing that we were going to have lots of orders, we made sure that all of the stock was counted and everything the couple of days before, and every single team member, didn't matter what you were doing, you stocked everything, and for that whole week you were in dispatch.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah.
So everybody came out of the offices, marketing out of everywhere, and it was all dispatch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Change, that could be one of the things you do is for a couple of days, all hands on deck.
Yep.
Don't have anyone in, everyone, all hands on deck. If that's what you need to do, get stuff, get yourself caught up. Just change your operational processes to cope with it. That's something you should definitely take on board. Okay, so that was mistake number one. Mistake number two was we invested in. No, we didn't invest. That's mistake number 5, which we'll come on to. Mistake number 2 was we had too many products, too many options, too many fragrances.
Yeah, we definitely did. We had our VIP box, didn't we? And we would release 4 fragrances every single month, and then they would then become a permanent product, which when we first started wasn't too bad. But obviously, when you get a couple of years in, 4 fragrances every month, it soon tots up.
Yeah, so a little bit of context is our subscription box was 4 brand new fragrances every month. So all of our subscription box members would get 4 brand new fragrances that were not part of our collection. And then automatically at the end of that month, they would become part of the permanent collection. So you can imagine every single month, the number of fragrances that we're stocking were going up by 4 every month. Then we had our seasonal collections and limited editions and things like that. After 2 or 3 years,
that's a lot of stock to manage.
And the problem with that is, yes, a lot of people think, and we see this within Home Fragrance Academy, people want to launch with 60, 80, 100 fragrances. You think automatically that customers want to have all of this choice. Actually, too much choice, and they won't buy anything.
Yeah.
So you want to keep it nice and short because your collection nice and small because of that. But also, actually, keeping up with that is insanely hard, not just from a production point of view where you've actually got to make these products and physically keep them in stock, but your cash flow, because you have to buy these fragrance oils in. If you've got 200 things, you have to have the products available in stock, and it eats into your cash flow. And you have to hope you're selling them all.
And the problem is, if you're letting them run out of stock and waiting until somebody asks about them to restock them, that's really negative on your business, because a lot of people will go on, if they see a few things out of stock, they think, oh, they're not a reliable supplier, I'm not going to bother.
And that's what we did. We had so many. Even now, Cozy Aromas has got probably more than what they need.
Yeah.
What you can do here is take inspiration from a company called Ava May Aromas, which you most probably have heard of. They became large and successful off the back of some really good social media campaigns with influencers. Mrs. Hinch, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah. And that they were absolutely flying, hundreds and hundreds of orders. And we know this because we placed, with our competitors, we place orders with them over a period of time, and we sort of have a look at their order number between the orders, and then we get a gauge of how many orders. And they were much bigger than us.
Yeah.
And when you look at their scent catalogue, I can't remember how many it was, but it was small. They had like 15, 20 fragrances.
Yeah, it was a lot more refined and just simple.
But they focused on their branding, their packaging, and their marketing, and they did incredibly well. So that shows you that you don't need to have a huge array of fragrances.
No, not at all. I liken it to myself to, like, when you go out for dinner somewhere. If you go to a restaurant and they've got like a massive menu of pages and pages, how are you going to decide what you want to eat? But if you go somewhere they've got like just one page, just a few different choices, it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Exactly. You want to have fragrances which cover most
categories,
scent categories. But then, just don't have too much. And it will transform your business. And we've learnt this with in the year that before we sold it, the year that we had Wax Kind.
Yeah.
We launched with 20 fragrances, and they sold just as well as
they did.
Cozy Aromas. The stores loved it. Retailers loved it because there wasn't so much choice for them to pick from. It just makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
So what we did with Cozy Aromas to try and help with this was instead of the 4 fragrances every month being released into the general collection, we gave our VIP members, because that's what it was, our subscription box was our VIP box, that's what we called it. We gave our members the opportunity to vote for 2 of those to become part of permanent, and 2 would then be lost.
Yeah, that was part of like one of their perks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That they get all 4 of them at a discount price, but they also feel like they've got the control over what ones they get to vote in.
Yeah, exactly. So that means instead of our fragrance catalogue going up by 4 a month, it was going up by 2 a month. And then also what we did was we were a lot more ruthless with regards to discontinuing fragrances that weren't selling too well.
I remember being in the old warehouse and we decided, we're going to discontinue these fragrances. One of them was green tea, wasn't it? I remember.
Yeah.
And we put a list up in the community group and we're like, we're going to discontinue these. When the stock is gone, it's gone. And we had probably about 25, 30 people say, oh no, don't, I love that fragrance. So they started buying it and we thought, okay, we won't. We'll buy more stock of it, which is what we did. And then that stock didn't move.
Yeah.
Because they topped up on it. And then that was it.
Absolutely. So be careful of that as well. Be careful of that peer pressure.
Don't fall into that trap.
Absolutely. Don't let your customers tell you that they don't want things discontinued, because
it's a business decision.
It's a business decision. They are the slowest sellers for a reason. And you'll find that if you put a list up of things that have been discontinued and you say you've got X number in stock, they will fly off the shelves to those people that love them. Yeah. So that's a really good way of increasing sales as well, actually. And then there's nothing stopping you bringing those back every now and then for a little limited edition period.
Which is exactly what we did. Yep. We did a nostalgic collection, didn't we? So some of the really old fragrances that we were still getting the odd customer here and there asking about.
That's right.
We just got a small amount of the oil, just poured them into like the little 1 ounce pots then, weren't they? Put them in a bag and they sold really well. We only had however many we had available and sold it as a gift bag and that was it.
Yeah, that kind of thing really does. It's fantastic. So you can be really clever with strategies here. So that's lesson number 2, which is don't have too many products and too many fragrances.
Don't stretch yourself too far.
If you're a wax melt brand, stick with wax melts until you get to a real point where you can start introducing fragrance oils, room sprays, carpet fresheners, or whatever else it is, candles and things. Don't have those. If you're someone who runs a business on your own, from home, for example, or a small unit, and it's just you or maybe one other person, don't have so many products because if you do, I can guarantee you are incredibly busy, constantly trying to keep things in stock when actually you should be really busy marketing your business. There we go. Lesson number 3 was not taking things too personally with regards to customer care, because that can really damage the business and that can cause a lot of untrust or distrust, or it can make people not like you anymore, basically.
Yeah. And when things are written online, it can be taken out of context as well. So you've got to think about the worst way the person could take it the other side of the computer, try and word things as nicely and helpful as possible, because things online spread like wildfire.
They do, and we found that out. So that's a lesson that you should take on board there, is because we used to do customer care ourselves, mainly me in the first unit for the first couple of years, which was great. And we had, you think on Trustpilot, we're one of the highest rated wax melt brands still, Cover Your Own as is, highest rated with almost the, I think, second most amount of reviews as well, something like that. So it hasn't, not bad at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's excellent. But they got to a point after 2 or 3 years where we're starting to get really busy, and it was just me. And someone says, one person says something, and I take it personally a little bit. I'm like, and my response is maybe a little bit curt and not rude in any way, but just quite short with them.
A bit to the point.
And if that person is active in Facebook groups and just a bit of a menace, which a lot of them are, they'll share that and they'll leave you a negative review. They'll share that in Facebook groups for all these other people to see, and other people take things out of context, or they
don't know the full story,
or if they can't think for themselves, they'll just take that as gospel and won't look at all of our positive reviews and stuff like that, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads, and that can cause issues, and it did cause issues for us. So and so that's one thing you have to be careful of is I think what I do in hindsight is really start to, when you get a message come through, or a request or an email, whatever it is, from a customer, and you don't like what they're saying, just give yourself 10 minutes.
Yep.
Really have a considered response.
And it's fine to ask somebody else in the business to read a response through, to get a bit of advice and say, you know, if you received this, would you be okay?
Exactly. Ultimately, whether you agree with them or not, your job is to make that customer happy.
Yep.
So they come back and buy from you and they have good things to say for you. Now, what we did to overcome this was, firstly, we hired someone to run customer care for us. But if you can't do that, then what we did was and in fact, we did this for Laura, who was, and I think Lindsay still uses it, is we created a document full of templates. So what are the most common questions or emails you receive? Have proper considered responses for all of them, and put that into a document as a template. Copy and paste that as an email reply. Make sure you're addressing their concern, you're offering a solution, but ultimately you are trying to make them as happy as possible.
Yeah, and have as least amount of steps and hoops that they have to jump through as possible as well, because they want to have their experience with customer care needs to be as positive as possible, with a solution and an outcome as quick as possible as well, with friendly service.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. So that's one of the best things we did, actually, was create just a Google document, write down all of the questions that you're typically asked or all of the issues that you could potentially face.
Am I right in thinking that the customer care thing that they used, that Lindsay was using, was called Gorgeous, and you can save answers in there?
Yeah, we used a ticketing software called Gorgeous, which is Gorgias. So it's a different spelling. It's a ticketing platform, so you attach that to your email address, all of your social media things. So basically all of your emails, your Facebook comments, Instagram comments, direct messages, everything go through to one platform, and you can create and save automatic replies on there. So that's worth doing. I can't remember how much that costs, but it's worth doing.
Yeah, you can link your Shopify website to it as well, so the customers are all linked, so that you can see, when you click on the response, you can see, this person, that's their order that they're waiting to be delivered, so you can give them the details as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. And it will show you their latest order with their tracking information, so you can just click on that. And
just makes the system so much easier and simpler.
Yeah, exactly. That's certainly worth investing in. So that's lesson number 3. That was quite a key one, wasn't it?
It definitely was.
And then number 4, we're going to talk about employees and expecting too much from them. Because this was a lesson that I learned. There's a few times where we've had employees leave, and ultimately the reason they left is because of me, directly me, because I expected too much from them. And I think about that quite a lot, and I kick myself for it, because they were bloody good people and we didn't want to lose them. And I just had to really work on myself there. And so what I mean by this is, because Tara and myself, we are the owners of the business, or were the owners of the business, and therefore it's our life. We don't have children, we don't have anything like that. And outside of work, we are always thinking about work or doing stuff or think about how we can grow. Still all the time, that is our life. When we go out for date nights and we're having dinner, we're talking about work. That was our life. But we loved it. We loved it. So there's nothing wrong with that. But we never saw, everyone was employed Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they had their job roles, everything, all contracted, all that kind of stuff. But because we were 24/7, near enough, sometimes I expected team members to be available outside of work, and I didn't sort of expect them as to be like, why aren't they responding or anything like that. It was more subconsciously. So as an example, if it got to the end of the day and there was something left to do, to tidy up or to finish a advert campaign or some social media posts for that weekend,
or finish boxing a product or anything like that,
whatever it is, I would expect them to do it before they left the building. And obviously I shouldn't put that kind of expectation on them, because these people are working. They're not interested in necessarily really growing their career. And you know what it's like, if you really want to grow your career, you kind of have to
go above and beyond.
You have to do a fantastic job, but you're employed to do a fantastic job anyway, so that is expected. But it's that going above and beyond and showing that initiative. Some people don't want that. They just want to have their 8 till 4 or 9 to 5, get paid, and then enjoy their life outside of
Yeah.
work, which is absolutely fine. And
I think because you've never been like that. You've always been very entrepreneurial, always wanting to do more, wanting to do better. And outside of work, you're always learning and trying to grow yourself, that you don't see it any other way. You've never saw it any other way, that's always the way that you've thought. So it's almost like, why don't other people
yeah,
think like that?
yeah, it is. And that's obviously, this is not a fault of employees at all. This is my own issue, which I'm starting to overcome. Um, and as you can tell, I'm sort of a bit slower on this subject because I'm still overcoming it. It's still quite difficult for me to really talk about. But yeah, we had Zena, who was a wonderful person,
She was fantastic, very
and
creative,
very
fun.
creative. She ran our social media marketing for us, and it got to a point where I was wanting her to learn stuff outside of work, keep up to date with all of these trends, blah 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 blah. You know, we had two brands at the time that she was responsible for, which is a lot of work, and I wanted her to learn all of these trends and what's happening outside of work and then implement them into work. And when that didn't happen, or when she wouldn't do a live shop one night, which was outside of her contracted hours, I would find myself getting a bit angry about that, and sort of almost expecting her to do it. I'm like, and then ultimately that left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and she left the business, which was a real shame. And that was one of the big lessons I learned there. Um, yeah, it's quite tricky and difficult for me to talk about, actually.
It is difficult because dealing with people is hard, like HR in general. But then when you're the business owner and you think in a very different way, it's hard sometimes to change the way you think, especially overnight. It's not possible to just change the way you think. So you have to sort of slowly try to accept the way things are,
Yeah,
especially in that sort of situation, that at the end of the day, you're the business owner, you are the one who is going to care about the business the most. You're the
yeah,
one that is expected to do the work because you want to do it, you want to grow the business. But a standard employee doesn't have to think like that. And 9 times out of 10, they don't think like that. And that's fine, because as long as they're doing the job properly that they're employed to do, that is all really you can expect them to do.
yeah,
If they do anything more, which I think sometimes when we've had employees that have gone above and beyond and have come in on days off or things like that and have given up weekends to help, shared social media posts and invited people to the group, because we had some fantastic people
yeah,
that have done all of these things, I'm saying. And then it automatically, you think, oh, that person didn't do it. You subconsciously, you don't say it out loud and you don't mean to think it, but sometimes as a human it's impossible not to make comparisons,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely, and that's a real tricky one to get through. And then when people do go above and beyond, and we have lots of people that have done that, as you said, like Darren did a lot of
Yeah,
that.
Darren did a lot of it. Yeah.
Lindsay does, and I believe still does.
Yeah,
She does a customer care outside of work at the weekends and everything. And then
she
you
did
got
it on her honeymoon.
yeah, and then you got Nathan, who when we were there would come in at the weekends to organise stuff. Would come in early every single day to get things prepped for that day.
Yeah.
So when the team come in, they know exactly what they're doing. And he'd go above and beyond as well.
Yeah,
He would very rarely have lunch breaks. He'd just work through it all day. You have to show appreciation to those people.
definitely.
And ultimately, those people are the ones that are growing in their careers as
Yep.
well.
They're the ones that you show the appreciation for. It can be as simple as like giving them a bottle of their favourite drink and a thank you card.
So, well, that's it.
You know?
Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a thank you so much. You have made a real impact this week. I have recognised you are going above and beyond,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate all your work. If you say something like that at the end of the day to someone, they go home buoyant and happy because
Yeah.
they know that they've been recognised, and people do like the recognition
Well, think
of
about
that.
it over the years when you've been employed by other people in the past. When somebody has said thank you to you, it releases endorphins and it makes you
Goes a long
feel
way.
appreciated, because you are appreciated. But as the business owner, you have to show that they're appreciated.
Yeah.
You can't just expect that they know it. You have to show them.
Yeah. Exactly. And that was a tough time. And when stuff like that happens, I really kick myself, and I'm really quite hard on myself.
You're very
Um,
hard on yourself generally
so
anyway.
yeah, so that is a quite tricky subject for me to talk about, because if I honestly, I feel like if I was just stop being such an idiot sometimes, we would have maintained and we would have had wonderful people in our team, and we wouldn't have to quickly try and hire someone to fill the gaps. Yeah. Anyway.
But that's a lesson we've learned.
Yep. And our final lesson that we're going to cover today, number 5, is over investing. And this is over investing in, earlier on we touched on having too many products, but this is over investing in actual stock in terms of
Yeah.
the amount of stock of products you have on the shelves.
So we did this ourselves when we were in our first unit, didn't we? And it was, what, 2018, 2019? Well, yeah, 2019 it was. And every time that we finished a fragrance oil bottle, instead of looking at the sales and determining whether or how much to repurchase, which is what we should have done, we just bought a 5 kilogram oil. And then some of the fragrances that we were making just weren't selling enough to warrant buying a 5 kilogram oil.
That's it. And, let's take that green tea example you
Yeah.
mentioned about earlier on. If we finished up the last fragrance oil and we had 200 wax melts on the shelf, we'd then just buy another 5 kilo and have that on the shelf.
So you're holding 200 wax melts and 5 kilograms of oil.
And really, the last thing you want is shelves full of fragrance oils.
Yeah, because it's just your cash flow and your money is tied up there, and you can't use it to invest in ads, which is what we would have done instead. That money that if we spent the time to look at the sales and worked out, okay, we don't need to buy this oil until such and such date, and like calculated it out, we would have then used that money that we did buy the 5 kilogram oil into more ads, which means we could have then sold more products.
Yeah. At one point, we had over £200,000 worth of stock. And this is finished products and also fragrance oils and wax and stuff like that. You just don't need that amount.
Imagine stock count and that. It wasn't fun.
So, well, yeah, there is that as well. But what you should really do is when you have a load of products, finished products, your wax melts on a shelf, when you're getting down to, I don't know, it depends on how many orders you get, but let's say you get down to 10. Have a look at your sales over the past month of that particular fragrance in that particular product. How many have you sold? If you've sold 30, then you know that you need to have 30 in stock, or 30 will last you a month, roughly. So you don't necessarily need to buy a whacking great
5 kilogram,
or whatever of that fragrance oil. Just buy enough to make yourself products for that month or for 2 months or something like that. Make those products up. They're on the shelf. They're ready to go. Keep your money in your bank account that you can use for investing in growth and getting customers, and also having a buffer for when you do have rough days. And when you have the cash not tied up in stock, you will typically have better cash flow, but you'll also have you'll be able to invest more in new products and new product launches. So if you are launching limited edition collections such as a Christmas collection, you can afford to go above and beyond and actually have some wonderful things there, and not just launch 6 Christmas fragrances in wax melts and candles, but maybe you can do an advent calendar. Maybe you could do a gift bag or some like a reusable. You could do a Christmas stocking, a personalized Christmas stocking full of wax melt, whatever. It just gives you that you'll have more cash and more profit in your business to do that, because your money won't be tied up in stock.
And to do that, if you're using Shopify, which is what we used, and all the other websites I believe would likely have the same thing, look on your analytics and download a report of your sellers, of your best sellers.
Every week or every month, download a report of your best sellers, and then you can calculate. It's quite straightforward. Just look at the numbers and then think about how many you need to make sure that those things don't run out of stock.
Think about the spreadsheet you created, which is exactly that. You linked how does it work? You linked the actual product on the spreadsheet to calculate how many you were selling each month. Then we could work out the stock.
That's it. So I created a spreadsheet, which was, we had all of our fragrances in there and what products we sold them in. And using data from Shopify, it will tell you how many you've sold in like a 90-day period or 30 days or whatever. I'd put that in as a calculation. And then I'd say how many we've got in stock, and then it'd tell us how many days worth of stock we've got left. And then if I knew it would take, let's say, a week to order a fragrance oil and then to make up some products, I would let it flash up red when it gets to a week. Like, right, you need to stock up now. So, okay, that's now red. I'm going to order some more. And then every month you update the initial input number, which is how many you sold in the previous month. And then just let the spreadsheet do the work for you. There is software and things that can do this kind of stuff for you, but I've never really experimented with any of those. I've just used a spreadsheet because it's quite straightforward.
And you quite like a spreadsheet as well. You're good at doing that because
it's just easy. It's just easy, and it's easy for people to understand as well.
And also, usually it's free as well.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we did. We learned that lesson, and we stopped doing that, didn't we? So we used that spreadsheet. We ran down stock levels of oil. So the amount of oil that we're holding is a lot less than what it used to be.
Yeah.
Bit different because we have Craft HQ now where you're selling fragrance oils.
Yeah.
So you need to have a stock of that, of course, similar to what you do with the wax melts. But it still works on a similar basis.
It does, yeah.
And then we place oils with manufacturers, knowing the individual manufacturers' lead times. So then we don't run out of stock. But equally, you don't have all your cash tied up in it as well.
Yep. It's a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you need to make sure you've got enough stock for your customers to buy, not tie up all your money in all the other stock, but then you also don't want the stock to run out. So you just need to get that fine balance. And it will take a bit of time to get there. But once you get there, it makes it so much easier. It's simpler. And there's not so many headaches.
Exactly. Ultimately, you're in this business to make some money. So don't have your money and profit on the shelf.
No.
Have it in your bank account ready for you to do good things with. Good. Well, there are your 5 lessons anyway. So the first lesson was never stop marketing.
Yep.
Second lesson was don't have too many different product SKUs, so too many fragrances and too many different products. Number 3 was customer care and don't take things too personally. Number 4 was don't expect too much from your employees. And number 5 is don't overinvest in raw materials. There we go. They're lessons we learned. I mean, there's a lot more than that, but they're 5 lessons we learned.
They're the first 5 that we want to share with you today.
I felt like we were getting a bit deep there. I'm still thinking about that employee one because I kick myself so much.
He literally does.
Really good people. But, lessons. Ultimately, that's what this podcast is about.
It is. It's to making sure that we share our experiences with you so that you don't make the same mistakes that we did.
Exactly. So take on board what we say.
Exactly.
We've been there, we've done it. So
got the T-shirt.
We're now trying to teach people these things.
Because we would have absolutely loved this to be available when we started, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
So
if you're not a member of the Home Fragrance Academy, then you need to be. Because
why not?
You get courses, you get coaching, live coaching from us. You get literally email support from us. So if you've got a problem in your business, you send us an email, and either Tamer or myself, depending on which area it needs to cover, we'll get back to you with our advice.
Talking about that, what did you launch yesterday?
I launched a new course, did I?
You did. Have a little plug time there.
Yeah, for you lucky people. This is called Basic Facebook Ads for Home Fragrance.
Yeah.
I bet you can't guess what it's about.
I wonder.
No, it's a short course, 1.5 hours long. And, we've spent over £1 million with Facebook. So it's all of the lessons we've learned there. And it just gives you a very simple strategy to get some simple Facebook ads up that will be profitable.
Yeah.
As long as you follow the formula that we have tried and tested, you'll run some profitable Facebook ads, which is what you want to do, isn't it? To grow your business. Plug over. But seriously, though, join up and become a member of Home Fragrance Academy. Yeah. We'd love to see you in there. I think that's it.
I think that covers everything today, yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate you taking the time.
And we can't wait to hear if you've got any suggestions or advice about what you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Just drop us a message and let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely right. Right, thanks, everybody, and we will speak to you later.
Speak to you soon, guys.
Bye.